What's up, you sexy animals? Back once again for another week of my NFL Weekly Review videos. Yes, please. Without further ado, let's begin. Green Bay versus Washington. Jordan Love once again had a great game versus the Commanders and started off by finding "I wanna be your Romeo Dobbs" for a score. Jaden Daniels, did not have a very good game, while Love was slinging the rock all over the yard. Respectable driver Josh Jacobs scored a touchdown to make it 14-0. Washington cut that to 14-3, but then the kickers secretly decided to engage in a game of who could miss more field goals without telling anybody else. This is sabotage, and I'm sure all the bettors in Las Vegas are not very happy about it. Finally, a field goal was made to give the Packers a 14-point lead heading into the final stanza. Daniels had a absolutely jaw-dropping touchdown pass to Super Bowl 52 champion Zach Ertz to make it a 7-point game, but the Packers responded right back with a touchdown of their own, with Love finding Tucker Kraft cheese, aptly named for a Wisconsin-based team. It's just so tough to watch Jaden Daniels stink up the joint. Oh, it's so bad. Anyway, the Packers went up by 3 scores, then Jaden Daniels padded his stats with a garbage time touchdown. I don't know what the fuck this is. I mean, come on, Jaden. You're supposed to be a top 5 quarterback, right? You underthrow a guy who's wide open on 4th and 10. Doesn't seem very top 10-ish to me. Here we see a bunch of mutual respect between Daniels and Micah Parsons, while Micah tells Jaden how he wishes he could get him in a locker room all alone. The video continues right after this short break. Before I begin, I want to give a shout out to the sponsor of today's video, DraftKings Sportsbook. You can literally feel the excitement in the air for football fans. That's right, the NFL is here. Finally, after 6 months of a long off season, your patience is being rewarded, friends, and it is a glorious feeling. And DraftKings Sportsbook is here to make your season even better. New customers who bet $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets. And you know I got your back. You can sign up using my promo code BARRY to have an even better time. You can stay in on the action and use your bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. If you love the thrill of live betting, DraftKings also has you covered. You can bet live on in-progress games right as they are happening. If sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry, you can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports and have the shot to win cash prizes. So what are you waiting for? New customers who bet $5 will instantly get $200 in bonus bets. Just sign up using my promo code BARRY, and remember, DraftKings, the crown is yours. Cowboys versus Giants. You mean to tell me every fucking year when they put these two shit teams on prime time and we have to sit through a boring blowout or a 12-9 game, they finally had a good game in a 1 p.m. time slot? I'm throwing up. I'm sorry. Early on, this game was a battle of mostly field goals, and it did look like it was going to be your typical boring Cowboys-Giants matchup, but then this game got legit. Russell Wilson was letting his balls hang all game long, turning back the clock, giving the Giants a double-digit lead in the first half, but it was only temporary as Dak Prescott fired a laser for a touchdown to make it 13-10 at halftime. But of course, Dak being Dak, he just had to throw a terrible interception, but the Giants could not capitalize on it with Cam Skattebo dropping 4th and 2. Why don't you just kick the field goal, Brian Dable? More like Brian Unable. Get it? Anyway, midway through the third quarter is when the scoring avalanche began. Javonte Williams broke off a long touchdown run, but then Russell Wilson said, you know what, I'm just going to throw the ball deep from now on. The teams exchanged field goals to make it 20-16 with 13 minutes left. Cam Skattebo had the most deceptively athletic pair of runs to score a touchdown for the Giants. The Cowboys answered right back with a touchdown run by double agent Miles Sanders. And then I don't know what the hell happened with Russell Wilson, but he just started launching bombs. No offense to Israel. He had a 32-yarder on 4th and 4 to go up by 3. Then the Cowboys responded with a touchdown of their own, which wasn't shown by the NFL clips for some reason. And then on 1st and 10 with 28 seconds left, Wilson threw a fucking dot to Malik Neighbors to give the Giants a 3-point lead and seemingly win the game. But then Dak Prescott heroically got his team to the 50-yard line, where Brandon Aubrey, who is a mutant, kicked the game-tying field goal from 64 yards out to send it in overtime. In overtime, the teams went back and forth. Wilson ended up throwing an arm punt interception before Dak once again got his team into field goal range to win the game 40-37. The Giants scored 3, that's right, not 1, not 2, but 3 go-ahead touchdowns in the fourth quarter and still lost. They truly are a team of failure. Bengals versus Jaguars. In this battle of kitty cats, Trevor Lawrence struck first with a touchdown pass to Dynamic Brown around to go up 7-0. Then on the very next drive, he underthrew Travis Hunter for an interception in the end zone. You're not supposed to do that, Trevor. Then just before the end of the first quarter, Joe Burrow responded with a touchdown pass to Jamar Chase to make it 7-7. The Jaguars did not blink as they scored another touchdown to go up 14-7 on a beautiful throw by Trevor Lawrence. But once again, Lawrence just can't help himself. When he makes a good play, he then has to make a bad play by law, and he throws an interception. Very scary scene as Joe Burrow had to leave the game due to explosive diarrhea. He is out for at least 3 months. But that means we get to see Jake Browning, who threw a bad interception on one of his first drives. Hey, but at least Jake Browning's wife is a super smoke show. And oh, look, here he is throwing a touchdown pass with a one-handed grab. That's disgusting. Use 2 hands to catch the ball. Have some respect for the game, please. Browning just can't stop throwing interceptions. I mean, my goodness, you're supposed to throw it to your same team, idiot. Lawrence, once again, just had an absolutely jaw-dropping touchdown pass, his third of the day, to make it 24-17. And then Jake Browning had a deep throw to T. Higgins, which was hilarious because 2 Jaguars defenders ran into each other like Looney Tunes characters, which allowed Higgins to walk into the end zone to tie the game entering the fourth quarter. It was not a good day for Brian Thomas Jr., who basically played like Todd Pinkston, dropping some big catches, but the Jaguars took a 3-point lead. The teams then exchanged a couple possessions before Browning threw another terrible interception, his third of the day, which seemingly had the game all wrapped up for the Jaguars, but they could not convert it into any points. I don't mind going for it there, but still, some of the play calling was just very bad. Either way, Jake Browning then activated his Tom Brady powers, which is being able to throw 3 interceptions in a game and still winning, thanks largely in part to a terrible defensive pass interference call on Travis Hunter, not Kelsey, which extended the game, and won't you know it, Browning got into the end zone, and that was all she wrote. The Bengals somehow snuck out with a win to improve to 2-0, while the Jaguars continue to be the Jaguars. Colts versus Broncos. In a battle for Peyton Manning's acceptance, the Colts struck first with a field goal before 50-year-old Bo Nix showed he still has some oomph in that arm by throwing a long touchdown pass. I guess Daniel Jones is just good now. After 6 years of being complete dog shit, I guess he's just good. What do you know? The NFL constantly giving us new surprises. But while we thought we knew what Daniel Jones was, Bo Nix continues to keep us on edge. He threw another touchdown pass to give the Broncos a lead early in the second quarter, and then after the Colts got stuffed like a Thanksgiving turkey on 4th and 1, Nix threw another touchdown pass, his third of the first half, to make it 21-13. But then Indiana Jones again threw a long pass, which set up another touchdown pass for the Colts to make it 21-20. Is it really as simple as just leaving the Giants facility in order to become good? I don't know. Either way, the Broncos once again responded with a touchdown to go back up by 8 in third quarter, and it looked like this game was going to be a 45-42 type of thing, but that's not what happened. In fact, the defenses started to step up, and Bo Nix started to show his age, throwing a terrible red zone interception early in the fourth, which the Colts then turned into a field goal off of a long Jonathan Taylor Thomas scamper, which made it a 2-point game. And then Sean Payton's famous clock management once again came into play, although I can't blame him for his kicker missing a 42-yard field goal. That's like a 12-yard field goal by today's standards. You got to get your shit together, man. But for all the excitement in this game, it will always be remembered for the ending, which was pretty controversial and quite honestly stupid, as the Colts' game-winning 60-yard field goal attempt was wide right in pure Vanderjack style, but the refs said, sister, y'all got called for leverage. That's a 15-yard penalty, which then gave the Colts a reprieve, and they took advantage of it. And so guess what? The Colts win. Yeah. Eagles versus Chiefs. In a rematch of Super Bowl 59 and 57, I guess, the defenses came to play early and often, but the most potent and emotional moment was when Harrison Butker decided to miss a kick wide right further than ever before as a tribute to where he stands now after this week's events. The first score on the board finally came when Jalen Hurts had one of the greatest handoffs in NFL history to Saquon Barkley for a touchdown run. Butker responded with a field goal. Then Mahomes said, you know what, I'm going to use my athletic side to get a long touchdown run to make it 10-7, before the Eagles conservatively played for a long field goal, which paid off by going to 10-10. And then there's this stupid-ass play call on 4th and 1 for no reason. Again, 4th and 1, why don't you just tush push if it's such a cheat code and it's illegal? Anyway, the Eagles responded to that by kicking a field goal to make it 13-10, and then Mahomes could not get things going. The teams exchanged punts. Again, you're 3rd and 16 and you're just giving up with a run. That's fucking bullshit. It looked like the Chiefs were going to take a 17-13 lead before Mahomes ended up throwing a terrible pass to Travis Kelce, who was too busy busy thinking about Taylor Swift's bazongas to hold on to the ball, which ended up becoming an interception. And then Jalen Hurts did what Jalen Hurts always does, which is come through in the clutch to piss people off, throwing a bomb to Devonta Smith. And then there was the infamous tush-push ending, which really had people crying. Please, if you hate the tush-push and you hate the Eagles, get some more Vagisil, because we're not going away. Mahomes finally turned the clock back by throwing a long-ass touchdown on 1st and 20. I don't know what the hell this coverage was before the Eagles were able to play keep away from the Chiefs to keep Mahomes on the sideline to improve to 2-0 and drop the Chiefs to 0-2. What a win by the Eagles, and what a win by Jalen Hurts, who is quickly rocketing up the list of the best quarterbacks of all time. Seattle versus Pittsburgh. In a rematch of Super Bowl 40, the Seahawks were out for revenge as Dick Hammer's grandson drew first blood throwing a touchdown pass. The Steelers responded with a field goal to make it 7-3, but then the bad Sam Darnold came out to play throwing an interception. The Steelers, though, could not capitalize with a touchdown, making it 7-6 instead. But the Seahawks could not capitalize on their field goals, which led to Sam Darnold throwing another terrible interception, which set up a super short field for Aaron Rodgers, and he finally did capitalize with a touchdown to DK Metcalf, who has a tremendous diet. Rodgers is now tied with Brett Favre on the all-time touchdown pass list. They used to be teammates, did you know that? But the rest of the game was very sad and very depressing for the Steelers. They just could not get out of their own way. Darnold threw a game-tying touchdown pass to make it 14-14. Then Rodgers on 3rd and goal threw a pass intended for the tight end, which the receiver got in the way of, which tipped the ball up, which ended in an interception for Seattle. The teams then exchanged punts again, and then the Seahawks went up on a field goal before the single dumbest play ever made by any person ever happened, where the Steelers kickoff return team just simply let the Seahawks return the ball in the end zone for a touchdown, which gave the Seahawks a 10-point lead with 11 minutes left. Rodgers then got the Steelers another field goal, and then the Seahawks pushed the ball down the field and finally scored a touchdown on a 3rd and goal from the 19. They scored on a touchdown run. What the hell? The game ended with Rodgers forcing some throws, and the Seahawks ended up winning 31-17. What are the odds that the Steelers defense immediately becomes bullshit the second Aaron Rodgers becomes their quarterback? Bad luck, Aaron, in my opinion. Lions versus Bears. Oh my. After a dud in week 1, the Lions were out for blood and trying to prove that Ben Johnson, now Bears head coach, wasn't the reason for their success last year. And at first, this game was competitive as the teams exchanged scores. Caleb Williams looked good, but simply put, the Bears defense was not prepared for what the Lions had to offer. So when you expect the Bears offense to be completely perfect, which is what they had to be in order to win this game, you're not going to have a very good time if you are a Bears fan. Although the Bears and Caleb Williams did do a relatively decent job of staying on pace with the Lions in the first half until the final 20 seconds when the game turned for good, in my opinion. For the second straight week, Isaac Tesla, big fan of Elon, had a spectacular one-handed catch, and then with 3 seconds left on the clock in the first half, Jared Goff found Amon-Ra St. Brown to go up by 14 points, and from that point, the avalanche was on. The Lions ended up scoring 24 unanswered points. Jared Goff had a fantastic game. This looked exactly like the 2024 Lions in the regular season, at least, and the Bears really had nothing to go off of. I mean, how exactly are you supposed to judge a quarterback like Caleb Williams? I understand he's not great, but when your defense gives up 52 points a game, nobody's going to win with that shit. But the best part came at the very end when Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson bro hugged, and Dan Campbell told him that he loves how he smells, and it just was it was a great example of non-toxic masculinity that I think this country could benefit from. Thanks a lot, Obama. 49ers versus Saints. Turns out that the Mac Jones versus Spencer Rattler game ended up being pretty entertaining. The Saints started off with a doink, and then Mac Jones moved the ball and threw his first touchdown as a 49er to Luke, I am your father, Farrell, to go up 6-0. That extended to 9-0. Spencer Rattler had probably his best game as a pro, all things considered. For some reason, the Saints' first touchdown was not included in the NFL highlight reels. What are they trying to hide? But Mac Jones, tremendous driver, amazing driver, was unfazed, and he threw a touchdown pass to Christian McCaffrey, who somehow didn't explode into a million pieces just before halftime to make it 16-7. But Jones was strip sacked, which led to another Saints touchdown, which led to a 49ers field goal to make it a 5-point game. And then Alvin Kamara was trying to be a show-off. Look at me, I can catch the ball with my head, which was another lost fumble caused by Fred, don't call me Kurt Warner. And you guessed it, the 49ers capitalized off of that with a touchdown to go up by 12. But this game was not over, folks. Spencer Rattler led the Saints down the field with a touchdown of his own, his third touchdown pass of the day to make it 26-21. And all he needed was a stop, and guess what? That's what he got. But unfortunately, despite having multiple chances late in the game, thanks to some drops by the 49ers, Spencer Rattler could still not secure his first NFL win, and the 49ers ended up leaving with a victory, 26-21. Spencer Rattler is now 0-8 as an NFL starter, but at least he can always hang his hat on kind of looking like Patrick Mahomes if you squint your eyes. Patriots versus Dolphins. Folks, I haven't seen Drake act out like this since Kendrick dropped Not Like Us. Yes, Drake May did perform very well, and the Dolphins offense did improve from last week, not a very high bar to clear, but the Patriots jumped out to a 12-0 lead thanks to 2 missed points. For the Dolphins finally started to look like an NFL offense, with Tua throwing to Jalen Waddle for a score. Patriots went up 8 on a field goal, and then finally Tua found 8-time Husband of the Year winner Tyreek Hill on a couple throws, which inevitably led to another Dolphins touchdown. And at some point early in the third quarter, the Dolphins took the lead on a field goal and even expanded it to 5 points before Drake May led a absolutely clutch drive with a laser to Ramondre Stevenson. Unironically, great hands for a running back here. Then Drake May used his sneaky athleticism to run for a touchdown. God, he's just so underrated and sneaky when he runs, isn't he? Patriots went for 2 and got it, and then this game got freaky. 7.5 minutes left to play. Patriots up 3. The Patriots punted the ball away to the Dolphins, who returned it for a touchdown to go up by 4. Wow, the Dolphins might actually win the game, and then it lasted all but about 10 seconds as the Patriots returned the very next kickoff for a score to make it 30-27. Tua threw a terrible interception. He threw it, Tua the wrong guy. God, I really just cracked myself up. Patriots then kicked a 53-yard field goal to make it a 6-point game, and it looked like the Dolphins had scored the game-winning touchdown on a long screen pass, but they stepped out of bounds, as you can see by the circle. That's it. The game ended with Tua being sacked by Milton Williams, who follows me on Twitter. That's the only reason why he's a good football player, by the way, which sealed the win for the Patriots, 33-27. Mike McDaniel is inching ever closer to once again becoming the 49ers' senior offensive advisor. Rams versus Titans. In a battle between Kelly Stafford's husband and Cam Ward, the Rams struck first with a 45-yard touchdown run by Puka Nacua. After a little bit of a lull, the Titans kicked a field goal, and then Matthew Stafford made up the difference by leading the Rams to a field goal. Cam Ward's receivers once again didn't have a great day, and Ward is still going through his rookie struggles, but he did have one of the greatest touchdown passes ever, and probably the greatest first touchdown pass any quarterback has ever had, just before halftime to tie the game at 10. But then Stafford threw an ill-advised interception, which is okay. Stafford, he's still a young quarterback. He's just learning through his mistakes. He'll get better, which set up a Titans field goal, and the Titans were somehow winning at halftime. But after Sean McVay and his 5 o'clock shadow ripped into the Rams at halftime, they came out with their tails on fire. The teams exchanged field goals, and the Titans were winning late in the third quarter before Stafford finally got going, throwing some seeds, which are keeping the love of my life, Jimmy Garoppolo, on the bench, which is sad. And then Cam Ward got strip sacked, which set up another short field and a touchdown for future Hall of Famer Davante Adams. Seriously, how can people say that Davante Adams isn't a surefire Hall of Famer, but Devin Hester is? It just drives me up a fucking wall. Either way, Stafford, again, got the team into the red zone where they capitalized, and they ended up winning relatively easily, 33-19. I think Cam Ward is going to be good, but it's not going to be with Brian Callahan as his head coach. The old Cleveland Browns versus the new Cleveland Browns. This game was pretty boring for the first quarter and a half almost, before the Ravens blocked a punt which set up a short touchdown pass from Lamar Jackson to go up 10-0. The Browns then made it 10-3 at halftime, so guess what? We're going down to the wire, folks. Just kidding. We're not. This ended up being a blowout. Spoiler alert. Lamar Jackson and DeAndre Hopkins have a special connection, and I'm not going to make any jokes about DeAndre Hopkins smearing shit all over his hotel room at the Combine. I'm not going to do that. In this entire game, after a respectable Week 1 performance, Joe Flacco just looked outmatched against his former team, and in the last 25 minutes or so, the Ravens just completely kicked the Browns' ass, except for one instance where Flacco threw quite possibly the most impressive and accurate touchdown pass in NFL history to make it 20-10, but that's all she wrote, basically. Jackson threw a bomb for a touchdown to go up by 17. Flacco got strip sacked, and that was returned for a touchdown by Roquan Smith to make it 34-10. Jackson found Hopkins again.
He's shit everywhere!
Dylan Gabriel, not Shador Sanders, came in and threw a garbage time touchdown pass. Bills versus Jets. I'm going to be upfront with you guys. This is probably the most boring and forgettable game of the weekend, so I'll make it quick. The Bills scored early and often, never giving up a lead and never really making this game competitive at all. The only interesting part of this game was when Josh Allen left, Mitch Trubisky came in and threw a 32-yard dime, which, by the way, ended up being more passing yards than Justin Fields had in the entire game. That's right, Justin Fields, unsurprisingly, regressed back to being doo-doo after his great performance last week versus the Steelers. But as you can see, this game, people thinking, wait, maybe the Bills are going to overlook the Jets and this is a trap game, blah, blah, blah. Nope, that is not the case here. The Bills won in a blowout and they won pretty handily. The only question is whether or not Josh Allen's broken nose will affect his sex life with his wife. Falcons versus Vikings. Again, another pretty boring game, but at least there was funny moments, like the Vikings failing on a tush push on 4th and inches. Wow, that's weird. I thought it was automatic. The Falcons have a kicker named Romo. Surely this won't end poorly for them at some point this season. Either way, this game was about gaffes and mistakes, and there were a lot of field goals, and then J.J. McCarthy threw a couple interceptions, which was funny because here's what we know. 9 months ago, J.J. McCarthy had sex, and his wife or girlfriend, whatever, got pregnant and gave birth just this week, so now he has a child, and that means he was more focused on having sex than reading the playbook, and that might have really affected the Vikings' ability to win this game, which is quite honestly unprofessional. And that's my biggest takeaway from this. I haven't even said one thing about Michael Penix, and again, every time I say Michael Penix, I must mention that his last name sounds like penis. That's just how I am. And to make matters worse, J.J. McCarthy was so ass that he somehow gave himself a high ankle sprain, which means that we're going to get 4 to 5 weeks of Carson Wentz football, baby. Prepare your anuses. Cardinals versus Panthers. Early on, the Cardinals tackled Booster Seat Bryce, and he forced a fumble, which they returned for a touchdown, and then they forced Bryce into another interception, which gave them an early 10-0 lead. And after a couple decent plays, which set up the Panthers with a field goal, Kyler Murray got things going, and the Cardinals really created a bunch of separation, including taking at one point a 27-3 lead late in the third quarter. This game, for all intents and purposes, looked over, but then Booster Seat Bryce rose to the occasion, throwing to Hunter Renfrow the grittiest touchdown catch ever. At the very least, the grittiest I've seen since Julian Edelman retired. But either way, this might be the first time and the last time in Kyler Murray's NFL career where he's taller than his opposing quarterback. Deep in opponent territory, Kyler Murray, I will show you my arm strength, as he throws a duck that gets intercepted. And then, to his credit, Bryce Young capitalized on stuff, and the Panthers looked like a good team, actually. At one point, even getting the ball down 5 and having it on the 38-yard line with 4th and 15 with 30 seconds left. And what would Bryce Young do? He would get sacked like a little baby. A little baby. My goodness. I mean, this guy is so small that if you fucking put him on a couch, he could fall in between the cushions. Tampa Bay versus Houston. The game began with C.J. Stroud throwing a laser for a touchdown, but the Bucs responded, and Baker Mayfield had a laser of himself to tie the game at 7, and it looked like this game was going to be a barn burner, especially when the Bucs went up 14-10 early in the second, but then things slowed down considerably. Both defenses woke up, and the offenses both struggled. At this point, I think it's fair to wonder a little bit, was C.J. Stroud's rookie season a fluke, because he hasn't been very good recently. But either way, the Bucs missed a golden chance to go up by 7 late in the third, and then the Texans missed a golden opportunity early in the fourth when Stroud threw the ball out of the back of the end zone to Manti Te'o's girlfriend for a turnover on downs. Then Baker Mayfield fumbled, then a punt was blocked, and then a field goal was made to make it a 1-point game, and then Mayfield got sacked again, which led to a huge punt return by the Texans, which then led to a touchdown by Nick Chubb, who used to be so unbelievably good before his entire lower body exploded, but still he has something left in the tank, which put the Texans up 5, but it gave enough time for Baker Mayfield to do his thing, which was lead a game-winning drive, the most clutch drive I've seen from a Buccaneers quarterback since at least 2019, and it ended with a Rachaad White touchdown run with 6 seconds left to give the Buccaneers a 20-19 win, with Baker Mayfield looking like Joe from You. Chargers versus Raiders. It was a vintage performance for Geno Smith, which in his case is not a good thing. He was picked off, the Chargers turned it into a field goal, but the Raiders responded with a deep three of their own. Tie the game, Justin Herbert had a nice night once again, throwing a great touchdown to make it 10-3. The Raiders cut that to 10-6. Then Justin Herbert said, you know what? Fuck checkdowns and fuck screens. I'm going to let this shit fly. That's what being a real man is all about. Maybe Madison Beer is really what he needed in order to reach his full potential, although I still disagree with them having premarital sex. Geno Smith got jealous and tried to match the same exact thing that Herbert did, and guess what? It came up short. Pete Carroll heroically kicked a field goal with 11 minutes left, down 14, to make it an 11-point game. We just know how much Pete hates Jim Harbaugh. The Raiders had multiple chances to get back in this game, but Geno Smith just did not have a good game at all. And then he got sacked, but the Chargers, being the Chargers, had to give the ball back on a fumble. That's the law. Okay, I don't make it up. And then on 4th and 5, Geno Smith with a beautifully accurate throw to the sideline out of bounds, which sealed the win for the Chargers to improve them to 2-0. And that's right, minority owner Tom Brady, he's trying to pretend that he's black. That's why he's the minority owner. It's disgusting. It's cultural appropriation. Either way, people forget that Tom Brady has worse playoff efficiency than Blake Bortles, Tim Tebow, Alex Smith, and Mark Sanchez. But I haven't forgotten.